because there's a lot of pressure that's placed on women because you get in your 30s or what have you. And
Biology, the clock is
the
ticking. When you
clock is
gotta have some
ticking.
babies, all this kind of stuff.
Oh, and everybody, the family doesn't help because I've witnessed it. I've got family members and they're always like jamming them up. So when you go get married,
3, 2, 1, 0. All engine
whether you've been married 1 or 20 plus years, at some point you realized you were married into crazy.
And that's what our podcast is all about. We offer love, laughter, and a dose of reality as we unpack this crazy thing called marriage.
So sit back, relax, and get your ear hustle on. It's time to start the conversation.
All right, let's go.
Welcome to episode 102 of the Married into Crazy podcast with Snooks and Lovey. I am Lovey.
I am Snooks.
And once again, we welcome each and every
Sorry.
we welcome each and every one of you back to the podcast. You know, for those of you that are new, we are a couple that has been married for 20 plus years, going on 24 to be exact. I thought she was going to say something smart right there.
No, I was just waiting because I'm like, well, we just played that in the intro.
I know, but you know, there's
okay.
always new people coming in, and so I want
That
to make
didn't
sure
hear the intro.
that may not have heard the
Okay.
intro. And so what this is an opportunity for you to get an ear hustle on when it comes to just the conversations that take place in our living room, in our kitchen. It just so happens that
In our hallway.
it's happening in our studio, in our home. And what we're doing, so a lot of times what takes place is this. We'll get into a conversation and we're like mid-sentence and one of us will go, oh, wait, hold on. Save it for the podcast.
Levy does that a lot to me. And sometimes I'm like, I'm going in deep. And then he's like, oh, you got to save it for the podcast. I'm like, I don't know if I can recreate that energy.
Should be waxing deep
or
sometimes.
remember what I said. Sometimes. Like, it's
All-
every
all
now
the
and then.
time, all the time, all the time.
Occasionally.
And it's funny.
Occasionally, Snick's got some good stuff. Okay.
No, and it is, and it's funny. Okay, remember that, please. Remember that.
And
Write
I
it
don't
down.
remember it.
Something, and then there's times where we can recreate it. There's other times where it's like, okay, we have to really think on this, and it's tough because there's some conversations that take place in every single one of our households that somebody else can benefit from.
Yeah, you'd be like, ooh, I wish somebody else was here to hear that besides you.
And so that was the whole premise behind us starting this podcast, because we have those conversations on the daily. We would actually look forward to getting back together at the end of the day and talking to each other, which I think is a lost art in a lot of relationships.
I laugh because you're like, we're looking forward to getting back together and talk so we can wax deep.
No, but it is one of those things. And so here's the thing. Married into Crazy,
Here's the thing.
she hates it when I say here's the
No,
thing.
I don't hate it. It's just funny to me. Here's the thing. Or here's the deal.
What we do as a couple is no different than what many couples across the United States do. It's just that we put it on a microphone and record it, and hopefully other people can benefit from it. Much like people can benefit from the monthly webinars or workshops that we do every single month. It's the last Saturday of the month. This time it's going to be August 29th, and you can go to our website, marriedintocrazy.com. Click on the little button right there. It says you deserve a 5-star marriage. Or basically it's just talking about, there's a little button there that talks about how we almost got divorced. But instead of getting divorced, we figured out a way to turn it around and create what we consider to be a 5-star rated marriage. Don't get me wrong. There's bumps, bruises. The prince turns back into a frog occasionally. And she has to re-kiss me so I can come out of that. She casts a spell over me. But we talk about not just what we did, kind of laying the groundwork. There's a free webinar on our site, as well as a self-audit tool that we created that we go into. And that's free as well. You can go there and get that free item and then opt into participating in our live workshop that takes place every single month. But this month, it's going to be a very special one, simply because it's new, it's revamped. We're adding a few things here and there, but it's been international. We've had people from all over the world that have participated, and we're looking forward to it. And it's a great opportunity for you to meet other couples across the United States and now across the world that are in this together with you, so
Right.
to speak.
Yeah. Okay, so before we move forward, I just want to give a quick shout out to Kelsey from Verizon. You know, when you have good service or you get good service, I believe that you should talk about it because we're very quick to talk about our bad experiences that we've had when we go to a restaurant or, we're at a store or whatever it is. So my phone was messing up and I couldn't text, or there's like a number of keys that were not working, and I was freaking out. And so Lovey, we were kind of talking with Verizon. Then I was like, oh, just forget it. The phone's almost paid off. Let's just get another phone. Then we started looking, and I was like, I don't need all that. I don't need that either. I don't need that, So I just
She don't. Go to our IG or our Facebook,
What?
and you'll see why she does not need all the extra bells and whistles.
What does that have to do with anything?
What you talking about?
Wow.
Was that my outside voice?
Yeah, that was your outside voice.
Oh, my bad.
All that. But so we talked to like 2 or 3 different people yesterday.
4.
And then Lovey talked to someone else again today. And so he was like, you need to come home, make sure you're home right on time because we have a 3:45 appointment, blah, 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 whatever. So I get home. Lovey was not to his satisfaction. So he had to actually end up calling in, and you got Kelsey then?
Yes.
And I mean, just like she didn't even, it just was like, oh, okay. So you do this and that, whatever. Oh, okay. Let's look at this. And then at one point she couldn't hear him on the phone. He's like, no. And she was like, I'll just call you back at this number. Sometimes people say, I'll call you back, but they don't call you back. She called back and she was like, yeah, I don't know what happened. Now I got you. I couldn't hear you before, blah, blah, blah. But bottom line is she fixed the phone. She was very professional. She just handled her business, and she was able to do what the other 3 guys.
4.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, she
Other
was the 5th
4
one.
guys could not do. So Kelsey got the job done. I don't have to get a new phone. I'm very happy. I'm satisfied. So I just want to give a shout out to Kelsey
At Verizon.
Can I tell my story?
Tell your story, girl.
At Verizon for just helping us out. So.
And when I say Snooks doesn't do it justice, when there was that glitch where she couldn't hear me anymore, where Kelsey couldn't hear me, and Snooks was saying, I was like, no. You have no idea.
Yeah, he wasn't saying it very nicely.
The gestures, the gyrations, everything I was going through. Because when you get somebody that is really good, and I used to be in customer service. I used to work in a call center many years ago, and I know what it's like to be on the other end of it, and you get these angry individuals. And I was not the most pleasant person when the conversation started. She tried to actually sell us a service, and I was like, I'm not hearing you. I'm like, why would I buy a service that I absolutely can't stand? I can't get service
right now.
I pretty much said that. I said, I'm irritated with the level of service or lack thereof that I'm receiving right now.
So why would I
purchase a program that's going to subject me to more of this irritation?
Oh my gosh. I was sitting on the stairs and I was like, ay.
Kelsey was
like,
cool as ice. She was like, okay, I understand.
I get it,
She was so laid back. And when it was all said and done, did we buy that from her?
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Lovey's like, okay, so you fixed it. Okay, so what was you talking about? And so she's told us about the promotion or whatever it was that they were offering, and
Kelsey
we ended
was
up
bomb.
get it. So yeah, she was very, very, very good. If Kelsey, if you're listening, shout out to you. And if anyone has a problem on Verizon, ask for Kelsey.
Ask for Kelsey, for real. And see, okay, look, that's a great segue. This is why great feedback. There was no way to really give feedback directly to the company for her, but that's not the case with Married Into Crazy. One of the ways that you can give us feedback and let us know how we're doing, if there's ideas that you have, if you want to talk about something that we had mentioned on the podcast, you can always text us directly at 918-351-2799.
That's 918-351-2799.
That is our Married Into Crazy Iron Tribe text community. That we always talk about being part of an iron tribe, just like Proverbs 27:17 says, as iron sharpens iron, we say that as iron sharpens iron, so should couples sharpen each other. And this is a way for us to build that iron tribe community. So that way we're being held accountable. We're being transparent. Reach out to us, text us, let us know how we're doing. Text us some ideas, that maybe some things that you're going through. It is a direct line to us. And we have people out there that have texted us from places like Utah and Texas and Arkansas. And they're throwing stuff out to us, and we are going to incorporate it. It's a beautiful thing. So please, and it costs you absolutely nothing, but it's a way that we can continue to enrich the entire community that's listening right now. And so the last thing we're going to ask you to do, call to action. Dun, dun, dun.
Put 5 on it.
Put 5 on it. So if you could, go to Apple Podcasts and if you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, and go ahead and give us a rating. Give us that 5-star rating, whatever it is you think we deserve.
5 stars.
But leave that rating, and if you would, leave a comment. We always appreciate what people are saying, because again, the more you do that, it increases the discoverability. And it's not about getting famous or whatever. What it is, but when we say getting discoverability, that rises it up to where it is more discoverable by other couples that are looking to have this conversation that you and us, what we're having right now. So please go ahead and do that, so that way they can also participate in the #1 podcast for couples, that Married into Crazy.
That's right.
So speaking of Married into Crazy, if you're looking at our YouTube version of this that is going to be posted,
you'll realize that Levy has all the good light and I don't have.
She lying.
Like, Levy.
She lying. Last time I was looking all robotic.
No. I'm looking at the thing and I'm like, he looks nice and crisp. I'm like almost in the shade.
I'm
really
crisp. She's saying that because
I'm almost in the shade.
I almost feel like it's like a light skin joke.
Okay.
Like he looking all nice and crisp.
Wow,
Is that
seriously?
new for light skin?
Really? No,
Is that-
that means you have the better light. And he put the light, he was like, no, the light needs to go closer because last time, whatever he was saying.
She know I'm bright, and I was fading in and out of the. I was like blending into the.
So
you ever
if
seen that
you're
meme?
bright, then why is the light flashing directly on you?
Have you ever seen the meme where there's a thing where Homer Simpson starts to back up and fades into the hedges? That's what I kept looking like last week. My head kept disappearing.
What?
It kept disappearing. So that's why.
Disappearing?
Disappearing. I don't know what it is. It's like I don't even know. I can't even fake that one. I don't know what I was saying.
It was disappearing.
But one thing
Anyway,
the reason why I'm dressed the way I'm dressed, like I was looking funky earlier because we started 75
I can't even
hard.
see you.
If they're on
YouTube. A little tiny bit of your T-shirt. I'm looking funky.
Anyway, so when Stokes came home, I was drenched in sweat the whole 9 yards. I didn't get my workout in this morning. So we are doing 75 hard. She said, I'm doing 75 hard.
I'm doing it too.
She doing it. She's just doing 75. She's not doing it so hard. So I'm sticking
Keep
to
that
it.
up. You're going to be walking by yourself tonight. Anyway.
It's this mental toughness program that was developed by Andy Frisella. And I have a lot of friends that are doing it. And I've been watching over the course of the last 2 years. Shout out to Gustavo and Eli, because they have been the kings of 75 hard. Gustavo first introduced it to me probably almost 2 years ago. And I was like, nah, I'm not doing that. You're crazy. And as a matter of fact, a bunch of us sat back and watched Gustavo and we're like, yeah, he's crazy. There's no way we're doing that. Then Eli picked up the mantle this past year and he went in, and then people started like, oh, I'm going to do it. The people started talking about it more and more and more. And then Snooks and I were like, you know what? We need to lose this COVID. They say COVID-15. I'll gain more than 15 during this COVID season. So I was like, we need to do something. And it's not just about the weight, but you can go online. I'm not going to go deep into it, but 75 hard requires 2 workouts a day, 45 minutes. One has to be outdoors. Then there's also no alcohol. You have to drink a gallon of water a day. What else? You have to read 10 pages. 10 pages. Mm-hmm. You have to take a progress picture every single day. So this is something we've been doing now. So this is day 8. And we just wanted to say that we're on this journey. So you're probably going to be hearing more about this over the course of, the next 70, less than 70, some odd days, 68, 67, however many days. So just know you're going to hear more about that. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, Snooks is just along for the ride.
I've been talking. I know you're ashamed.
What I wanted to jump into, though.
Yes.
One of the things, so we mentioned 75 hard. We have to read 10 pages a day.
Mm-hmm.
One of the books, I'm reading 2 books. And I told Snooks we could read 5 pages in one book and 5 pages in another. And they have to be nonfiction books. They can't just be like, the love books that she likes to read. So one of the books we're reading.
Was that a dig?
Is The Purpose and Power of Love and Marriage by Miles Monroe. Mm-hmm. So my brother-in-law recommended this book to us, who is not married, by the way, yet. So one of the things that I should say again, I was going to put a dig on him.
Really?
I love my brother-in-law.
Don't be messing with my brother.
No, he's good. You know what? He is so deep when it comes to spiritual awakening, and he's getting his master's in divinity.
No, he has his master's.
He got his master's in divinity. But he recommended this book, and it's really good. And so this is one of the books that we're reading at night. And part of the conversation that I wanted us to have was on chapter 3. It talks about why get married anyway.
Why did I get married?
No, it says not why did you get married. It says why get married anyway.
No, I'm just saying the movie.
And the cool thing about this particular chapter is it talks about the 10 unhealthy reasons to get married. Then it talks about the 10 healthy reasons to get married. And I wanted to highlight specifically the 10 unhealthy reasons to get married. You cool with that?
I'm cool.
All right. So this is one of those impromptu days where
I'm down.
I get to throw out these topics and discuss it. So the number one reason that's listed in this is people get married to spite their parents.
Really?
I mean, think about it. One of the things that, that there's anger and resentment because, it's like that forbidden fruit. People say, oh, you can't date that person or you can't see that individual. Did you ever have that where
makes them more attractive to
right?
Once you put a don't move forward sign, it's like, no, I really want to go down there now.
It goes back to Adam and Eve. It was like you can eat all the fruit in the garden, just not that one right there.
Like, why can't we eat that one?
The shiny red apple.
And they made it shiny red too.
Right. And so it's one of those things where it happens in relationships. I know for a fact that as I was growing up, every time you told me you can't date that girl, it became my goal at some point to have to climb out that girl's window.
I'm going to date that girl. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, and it was one of those things. Once you dangle something, say, oh, you can't have this, you want it. And so some people actually get married because there was that relationship that their siblings or their parents, more specifically their parents, did not, agree with. Culture-wise, religion, what have you, or race, it comes up all the time.
So basically the anger and resentment that they had towards their parents, they acted out on that and they went and shot themselves in the foot. Because sometimes, you do something to spite someone else. It's almost like cutting off your nose to spite your own face. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do something because I'm going to prove a point that I'm going to blah, blah, blah. And then you walk into the dungeon because the outside of the dungeon is dressed up nice, but it's not, the dragon is really deep down in there. And so now you're stuck in a situation where you're like, oh my God, why did I do this? So you almost like, what is it called? Walking out, you jump out the pot and straight into the fire?
Oh,
Something like that?
Yep. Out of the frying pan into the fire.
There you go.
Well, it's true because that's a very negative way to start because you're doing something. There's negative intention behind the purpose of marriage.
Yeah.
And then in doing that, that's creating this overriding emotion of negativity, which is going to be anger, resentment, bitterness, right? And it's not conducive for a healthy long-term relationship.
Right, because the reason that you did it in the first place was not because of it was not the reason that you should have done it.
Right.
It wasn't because I love you so much, and maybe I am in love with you, but my ulterior motive was, I'm gonna show them, I'm gonna do it the way I want to do it, and blah blah blah, whatever.
Say that,
and then you end up hurting your own self.
Right, and so and closely akin to that is the second reason, which is to escape an unhappy home.
I actually know someone who did that. It wasn't so much to spite their parents, but it was because the home situation was bad, and the attitude was, well, it's already bad here. I might as well be in my own home where I can at least have some measure of say so and be happy. You know what I'm saying? So.
Oh yeah. Think about it. If you're in a home where you're being subjected to addiction, whether it's alcohol, drugs, sex, abuse, and you're all constantly around anger, shouting, cursing, quarreling, so many different things that are going on, it's so easy to look at that person that's giving you a respite or some kind of, escape, if you will, from all that, the person you run to,
right? And
you think, okay, well, I just need to go ahead and get married. Let's just get married so I can run away from all of this. And you can be my knight in shining armor or my damsel in distress, and whatever. You do this once again, under the wrong premise. It's very similar to the very first one, out of spite, but this one's more about escaping something. When I used to be a headhunter, one of the things we used to look for in our candidates was to find out when we got a really good candidate, the very first thing we wanted to find out is, are you running away from something or are you running to something?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're running to a job because it sounds so amazing and it aligns with what you're trying to accomplish, then, okay, the answer is yes, you're going to be a great candidate. But if you're somebody that's running from something, had a bad manager, I don't like my colleagues, then we always knew that, okay, this is going to end ugly.
Right.
The same thing, because the same thing's going to happen at the next job.
Right.
Right. And same thing in a relationship. If you're running from something, not saying it's all about you and why you're causing that, or you're having something to contribute to that situation. But the moment you're running from something, it's never going to be a good situation, because what you're looking for in search of, they say the grass isn't always greener.
Right.
And it's not. Nirvana or heaven is not on the other side of that fence just because you're running from something.
Yeah, and what ends up happening is you end up exchanging one unhappiness for another unhappiness. So you have to be very mindful of what are your motives. Why am I doing this? And I like to think about or ask the question. So I understand about the household and the home, but is there not another way that you can escape? Is there not a different route that you can go? Can you not find a roommate? Can you not find, you know what I mean?
Right.
Someone to stay with? I don't know. And not judging at all, because I've not been in those shoes to where I'm going to get married because I'm trying to escape from something. So, but
No, I hear
I
you.
always want to think that maybe there are different options. There's another way, because you rarely find what it is that you're looking for when you do those kind of things.
So what happened to the person that you knew?
Oh, they got divorced.
It goes down that path.
They got divorced.
Well, then, okay, so number
And
3.
the marriage didn't actually last very long anyway.
Really?
So, I mean, and I'm like, was that, like you said, the escape route? Was that just your means to an end to just get out of there so you can get out and then I'm free? So now I can, I can start my life the way I want to start my life because I had to get out of there.
You're looking at marriage like Cinque was looking at,
Give us free.
Give us free. Trying to get away from, the captors.
Yeah.
Another thing that people did, number 3 on the list, was people get married. This, again, we're going over the 10 reasons to not get married. And number 3 was having a negative self-image. Some people have a tendency to not think very highly of themselves, and they feel like this other person makes them feel better about themselves. That they build them up. And if both people coming into the marriage have a self-image issue, we'll call it a problem or something along those lines, they're going to be really in for a rough time, because a healthy marriage is supposed to bring two individuals that are whole individuals,
Yes.
not two halves.
That's right.
Right? And forming a union that's going to be greater than the sum of the parts. So if you're 1 and 1, the two of you together, honestly, when it comes to marriage, 1 + 1 = 1.
Right.
It doesn't equal 2. But if you come in with 0.5 and 0.75, okay, that math isn't going to work. It just doesn't work. So when you don't have a strong image of yourself, now there's nothing wrong about self-discovery. I'm not saying that you are completely who you are, because we've evolved multiple times during the course of our relationship. We're still evolving. I know that at 60, I'm not going to be the same individual that I was at 52, that I was at 45. We're getting better each time, I hope. And that's the goal, right? And I'm
Right.
sure there's I revert from time to time, into my Neanderthal-nish,
Yeah.
whatever. And the thing that we have to be very cognitive of, or very conscious of, is that we're not looking for somebody else to complete us.
That's right.
That's not what marriage is supposed to be.
That's right. A half a man will never be a whole man because he married a half a woman. And a half a woman will never be a whole woman because she married a half a man.
And even if you marry, a whole person, so to speak, if they got their act together, but you have this negative self-image and you're not complete yourself, and at least knowing who you are, knowing what you're about. And again, it may not be a full up to that point, because like I said, we do evolve, we do get better, we do get stronger.
Right.
But if you're looking for somebody else to complete you, it's going to end up negatively, because you're going to find that no one can complete you except Christ.
That's right.
Except Christ.
That's
And
right.
I'm not going to go deep, but it's one of those things that hole that you fill inside yourself, people have a tendency to try and fill it with drugs. They fill it with sex. They fill it with gambling. They fill it with
Shopping.
They fill it with so many different things. When more times than not, and I know this is only true for myself, I can speak for myself and the people I've spoken to, that when you form a relationship with that greater being than yourself, that's when that hole begins to disappear. And it's not a person. It's not a woman. It's not a man. It's not, Dooney and Burke. It's not, it's not these things, the bag or the car. It's, when you find that wholeness, then you can truly contribute to that other individual.
Yeah, and let me just say this too, like kind of what you said about us evolving. If you marry someone, say I'm the half and you're the whole. If I marry you and I don't evolve, that difference is going to create a problem, because I'm always going to be wondering, oh, am I good enough? Am I good enough? Am I good enough? And then you're at some point going to be like, okay, I'm tired of having to keep reassuring you that you're good enough, You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And then that in itself will create a problem. And you could be like, I need to be with someone who knows that what they bring to the table. I need to be with someone who knows that they're deserving or they're whatever. I don't need a pet. Like, I
always need to be stroked.
Yeah, exactly.
Come here so I can rub your belly. Though she does like that. So number 4 on the list is marrying on the rebound. And I find this one really interesting. There was a story I heard in a podcast the other day. I was listening to Lewis Howe and the School of Greatness, and he was interviewing this cardiologist. And at the very end, it's a very touching story about how this cardiologist talked about how the relationship that he was really into in college, all that, didn't work out because he went off to med school and he had to go separate ways. But he had been with this woman a while, all throughout college. And when they decided they weren't going to get married, just for whatever reason, you have to listen to the podcast, 6 weeks later, he was engaged to another person and got married and was married for 20 years. And he had made a comment about how he married on the rebound and it was never a happy union. It was something that just never quite, something that just wasn't quite right. They were married for 20 years and then he got divorced. And his first love, and he refound each other. And then now they've been married for 25 years. And it was, a thing about maturity, but it really struck out to me because I was reading this particular chapter at the time that I heard that podcast last week.
Wow.
And I thought it was neat when we were talking about marrying on the rebound. The problem with marrying on the rebound is that it's not a marriage of love, but of convenience.
Yeah. Yeah, you're trying to placate those feelings of loss, of depression, of worthiness, I think. Someone comes around, you're licking your wounds and someone's like, hey, girl, you look good. Ooh, he said, I look good. So,
I already got this ring. Let's go.
Right. And then there you are. You're jumping from the pan into the fire.
Oh, my goodness. Because in reality, no love is involved on the rebound. It's because you're operating on the premise of emotions that are what's the word? That's being resonated from a previous relationship. It's like it's reverberating from the last person you were with.
It's like borrowed love in a sense for the other person. If I just get out of a relationship and you're my rebound guy, you're borrowing that love. It's like you're living on borrowed love.
Okay, come on. Look, every election, I just had this thought right now. So every election that takes place, so every 4 years there's a new president in the United States, right? Sometimes 8. But when there's a new president that comes into the White House, I don't care if you're Republican, I don't care if you're Democrat. This is not a knock on anybody's preference, but I will say this: when there's a Republican that's in the White House and then a new president, Democrat, comes in, or a Democrat is the president and then a Republican comes in, everyone's like, oh, like 2 years into the new presidency, they're raving about, oh, all these things. Look at what the economy's doing under me. Look what this is that. Look what's happening.
Already started.
These programs. And it's always a reverberation of what the previous president was doing. But yet everybody wants to take responsibility for the positive things that are happening. It's the same thing when you're talking about a marrying on rebound. Those relationships, people say, are you sure you want to get married? Oh, she or he makes me feel like this, and I'm a newfound person and blah, blah, blah. And you want to think like, I think you're feeling what the last person made you feel like, and you're just
Right.
carrying it over.
It's borrowed love.
It's that borrowed love you were talking about. Amen.
He said, amen.
So number 5 is fear of being left out. And that FOMO, that fear of missing out,
Yeah, I think that's a big one.
it's a huge one, particularly for women, I think, more than men, because there's a lot of pressure that's placed on women because you get in your 30s or what have you.
Biology, the clock is ticking.
The
We're
clock
going
is
to have
ticking.
some babies, all this kind of stuff.
And everybody, the family doesn't help because I've witnessed it. I've got family members and they're always like jamming them up. So when you gonna get married? Oh, it'd be nice when she decides to get married and give me some grandbabies.
That's true.
It happens to men as well, but it just seems like there's much more pressure placed on women. So then you end up accepting somebody less than, your particular standard.
Well, let me say this too, though, and this is just obviously my personal opinion. So the fear of being left out for women, I feel like there's so much competition, and it's not just with women, like a woman my age, over 30 or whatever. And now you got the younger girls that are like trying to compete for the sugar daddies and stuff like that. So the older dudes, depending on what they're looking at or what it is that they want, they might want the younger girl that leaves me out because I'm older now, I'm wiser, I'm mature, and now I'm like, dang, so I better swoop up who I can. That is some women feel like that.
So I could be a sugar daddy.
I'm older than you. I'm a sugar mama.
No, I mean, there might be somebody looking for me right now.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll be broke. So
Oh, true that. Okay, that's right. That's right. We
I'm
married.
moving on.
We married. Moving on to number 6. Number 6 is fear of independence. That sounds weird, right? That sounds like an odd
I'm
one.
like, okay.
So yeah, Snooks makes his face like fear of independence. Imagine being in a home that everything's done for you.
Oh, okay. I got it now. I got it.
Your parents do everything for you. You have siblings that step up for you. You don't really have to do anything, but all of a sudden something shifts, something changes. Parents pass away, or they're getting elderly, or they tell you, "Oh, that's it. The gravy train is done. You've been to college. We paid for you to get your bachelor's. We paid for you to get your master's, or we paid for your trade school, or we allowed you to start that business, whatever, and stay home. It's done. You got to go. You got to get out of here." And now, rather than try and stand on your own 2 feet, you're like, my boyfriend or my girlfriend has always been by me. Maybe it's time for us to actually venture out together. So it's less about you wanting to get married because you're in love and you think it's time and you feel that way. It's more about, I'm not sure if I'm ready to do this by myself.
You're afraid to be independent.
And
Independent. So you rely on other people because of the way that you were brought up. Everything was handed to you. And now that hand is gone, you're like, oh, I don't know how to fish.
right. It's like every time back, like in the 90s or the early 2000s, when that song INDE, when they started, that came, you would turn the channel.
I'm not independent.
I don't want to be
Listen,
independent.
Salt and Pepper had a song, Independent Woman. Yeah, independent. Yeah.
Okay,
It was
actually,
all-
no, okay, the C's kicking in.
Okay, sorry.
She's trying to
Okay,
think of the
sorry.
songs,
No,
think
I
of
know
the
the
lyrics.
song. I was about to try to do the lyrics.
And it came out
but,
in 19.
Hey,
No.
I know it.
So that's something else to think about. I know someone that,
Went from their mother's home to their husband's home.
yeah, pretty much went straight from their mother's home. The identity that person had was daughter, dutiful daughter. Then they went from dutiful daughter to dutiful wife. Then they went from dutiful wife to dutiful mother. At no point did this person really develop an identity of self.
To her own self.
And there's a lot of, we can talk about that in another podcast, but we could wax deep on that for a very long period. And it's not just women, it happens to men as well. That they're always, want to be the good son. Then they want to go to being the good husband. Then they want to go to being the good father. And there's nothing wrong with that title in itself, but there's challenges. And when you're trying to be something other than yourself, not that you aren't those things, but that's a problem.
Right.
That independence of self, knowing your identity, who you are, before you become something to someone else. And we can go deeper on that another day. But number 7 was fear of hurting the other person.
So basically, you asked me to marry you, and instead of me saying no because I really don't want to get married, I say yes because I don't want to hurt your feelings.
It goes beyond hurting feelings. It's not just.
I mean, I'm
Yeah,
asking
exactly,
if that's
yeah,
what it is.
right.
Okay.
So, for instance, heck, I've been in those relationships, early on when I was overseas, where no, the person would sit there and be like, "Oh my God, this relationship. If you leave me, I don't know what I'll do.
I'm
I'll
going to
hurt-
kill myself.
Yeah, I'm going to kill myself." Or and sometimes things are said in passing, but then they give you that crazy look, like, for real, but not for real.
Right.
And they give you that look like, damn, I don't know, is this really going to happen? Or, and so you're nervous about getting out of the relationship because you just don't know what they're going to do. You care about them, not enough to get married, but you care about them because you don't want anything bad to happen to them.
So, but basically, it's like the other person is using manipulation. They manipulate the situation. They apply the pressure on you and make you feel like you're obligated. And therefore, you go ahead and you do the deed. And then you end up being in the categories 1 through 6.
Come on, exactly. So much pressure builds up that the other person is feeling guilty.
Mm-hmm. And then they will end up having resentment. And the only reason I did it because I didn't want to hurt your feelings. I mean, there's so many different things that's going to come up from this type of saying yes, of agreeing.
Absolutely. And there's no way of getting around it. So it's one of those things where you have to understand that's the only way. I won't say the only way. It's one way that you just don't want to go down that path because you can't have that fear of hurting. It has to be out of love. Number 8 on the list is to be a therapist or a counselor for the other person. They feel a sense of responsibility for someone who needs the benefit of their wisdom. That sugar daddy that you're talking about. Sometimes you have older folks that get into a relationship. I won't say older, but because they're wiser, they've been through a lot more. They have advice, they have counsel, they have experience. And this person, is benefiting from it. Mm-hmm. And to be honest, there's a little bit of stroking ego as well. It's because I am so much to her that maybe we should get married. Because
therefore, I will marry her.
I will marry her because I will bequeath my knowledge to you. No,
Right.
I mean, I don't know. This is in the list. I don't know anyone that's gone through anything like that,
Me
but
either.
it's something I can't really speak on deeply, but we'll just go ahead and leave that one right there. Now, number 9. Okay, I've seen that one. I've heard of that one where it's because of having sex.
Ah, okay. Well, sex alone is not marriage. Sex is sex.
Sex is sex, but you know what?
But okay, so in the Bible, what does it say? It's better to get married than to burn. I can't remember what the chapter.
I don't know that scripture.
What the scripture is. I'm gonna find that scripture. I'll bring it to you next week. But I know that there is a scripture that says something about fornication. Because in the Bible, as a Christian, you don't believe in having sex before you get married. So there is a scripture that says something. It's better to get married or something. Like I said, I can't remember what the scripture is. I'm not even gonna go there. But a lot of people, I actually know someone who married her husband because they had sex. And she didn't get pregnant. I asked the question, Mom, did you get pregnant? She was like, no, but that was her belief. If you have sex with the person, she was a virgin before you have sex with the person, then you're supposed to get married. So, but sex alone it doesn't make a marriage. Sex is sex, and marriage and sex are totally different,
And marriage doesn't make the relationship.
No, sex is let me see how to say this. I think that sex is enhanced by the marriage because of the commitment of the couple, the connection. Exactly. So of course within our marriage, we want to make sure that we're having some good sex, but it doesn't make the marriage, and it's not a reason for me. It's not a reason to get married.
No, it's not. I mean, but it is something that needs to be explored because, sex can get better with marriage. It's one of those things that, but don't do it just because. Well, first off, okay, let's just keep it real. We're kind of like a quasi-Christian show as well. We touch upon our faith every now and then. Shouldn't be having sex before.
That's why I brought up fornication.
Right?
He's all,
but hey, I'm just gonna say, look, I can't condemn.
No judgment. No judgment.
Because, like I said, my wife brought me out of the realms of heathenhood. Instead of Robin Hood, I was heathenhood.
Heathenhood. Okay. That's so funny.
Oh, that should be a movie.
Heathenhood.
Heathenhood. Because
Oh
man,
Lord, it'd be
hey,
on.
look, when I was overseas, it
would
was
be on after-
Heathenhood and his band of merry men.
It'd be on after 11,
Oh,
11
'cause,
p.m.
Hey, look,
Showtime after dark, or was it HBO after dark? I don't know,
I
whichever
was like,
one it is.
Heathenhood. There's a pack of women over there, and Robin of Locksley,
You're
and
so silly.
me and my merry band of men
Yeah.
were
Okay, Ernie.
bouncing from club to
In the
club.
round nights.
Okay, anyway, it's a whole other story. Nights at the
Yes.
round table.
Yeah.
All right, so number 10. Okay, and this is a big one, and it still exists, and we see it so often. And unfortunately, I've seen the ramifications of it time and time again, where it just never went well. And that's because of a pregnancy. People get married because you
The
got
girl
pregnant.
got pregnant.
Unfortunately, we've seen, and that's something I avoided. I've never believed in people getting married just because there's a baby.
Right. I know you're going to talk some more.
There was a
about-
pregnant pause right there.
Well, because we
ahead.
know someone. We know several people. I know several people that have that jumped the broom basically because they were pregnant. And when they told me their story, they talked about the fact that, and I was like, why did you get married then? Well, because I was pregnant. And I was like, okay. I mean,
Yeah,
people
when they lead with that,
people have babies and they still go on to live lives, and you still can have a life outside of, because you're a single mother. Now, a couple of the people that I've talked to and told me their stories, they were older, so at that time that was something that was frowned upon. I was like, well, so was premarital sex, obviously, but you still indulged in that. But it was a different way of life, and so they got pregnant, they got married, and at the end of the day, were they happy that they got married? Yeah, they said that they were happy that they got married. In hindsight, they wish they would not have gotten married though. So I'm just like, wow. I mean, so you were happy because you settled, and you settled because this situation happened. So I said, well, had you not gotten pregnant, do you think you would have married this person? Probably not. So that to me speaks volumes.
there's a lot of unhappiness that's out there. And I know people where they ended up getting divorced because down the
Yes.
road, they were never happy. They were getting married because there was family pressure. It's like, oh, you got my daughter married, so what you going to do now?
Pregnant.
You got to make her an honest woman. You got to be an honest man, step up. You got to, and there was one relationship where the phrase step up came up time and time again. Well, I got her pregnant, so
I gotta
I
step
got to
up.
step up and be a man. And
Being a man is taking care of your child.
being a man is right. Taking responsibility for your actions, not necessarily taking standing before God and making a covenant that you have no intention of actually honoring, or in the moment you do and you have no idea. It's just, marriage is so much more than standing before two families and God and taking vows.
Saying I do.
It's so much more.
You, like Lovey said, you're saying I do to something that you actually really don't have any idea about. What are you I doing? I do love and cherish her but you don't even love her right now. You love the idea of the family, maybe. You love the baby, but do you really love her? Because the first thing you said was, I'm marrying her because I got her pregnant. Or I'm marrying him because I got pregnant. Not, I'm going to get married because I love this person and coincidentally I'm pregnant. The initial reason behind the behind the marriage was the pregnancy. That's not a way to start that out. And there are, and like I said, no judgment ever, never any judgment. But time and time again, we've seen relationships that end very badly because they decided to get married for the sake of the child. No, it's not for the sake of the child. The sake of the child is you and him co-parenting in a good way. They see good things happen. They see good communication. They see the parents getting along. Not, I didn't want to marry you anyway, or the fussing and the fighting, or this one staying out all the time, or the disconnect and the loneliness that can come from you're born into this relationship that it's just very stale. So what are you showing your child? Where's the warmth? Because 9 out of 10, the child is going to mimic what they see at home. Maybe not 9 out of 10, but the child is going to mimic what they see at home. And then sometimes the child will take ownership of what's not happening. Oh, well, they're only married because of me. And so they put all that on their back and they feel responsible for the unhappiness of their parents. Well, if it wasn't for me, if I wasn't born, or if I wasn't,
It's the same thing when you get divorced. Oh, they're getting divorced
there
because
you go.
of me.
That part.
So it carries a lot of weight. So that's definitely not a reason why anybody should get married. So there you go. There were the 10 reasons
Per the book.
per this particular book to not get married. And the I was looking for the I Can.
It's right there.
Oh, I see. It's all the way over there. So
He did it.
what we're going to do now is kind of close out, because that's enough to resonate. And I think what we should do maybe next week is go into, as you're making noise, what we should probably do next week is go into the top 10 reasons to get married.
Per the book.
Per the book. Right.
All right.
Well, okay. So as she's,
I'm game.
okay, but can you stop that while I'm talking? So it's called The Healthy Reasons to Get Married.
I was just
See, I didn't need the
chastised
noise
on
effect.
air.
Well, I'm trying to talk and she's making all this noise. So what we're
Lord.
going to do now is we're going to give you 2 for the road. We always go to the I Can for couples at the very end of our podcast. After we do this, we're going to observe 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence. We always do that so that way people can reflect and think about how you can be a better citizen, somebody that you can contribute better to your community to make it a better place. We do this, of course, because of all the social, because of the social justice movement that's taken place in the United States. There's a lot of individuals that just are not getting, including ourselves, because I've been victim to it. Snooks has been victim to it. A lot of my family members that have not had the full extent of the Constitution extended to us at all times. And so our way of giving back to social justice in the podcast land is by observing 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence at the end of every podcast for the remainder of the year.
Yes.
But before we go there,
Mine says, or this is our 2 for the road. Sorry. Mine says, I can hold my partner's hand in public. That's easy. I do it all the time.
she does it all the time, even when I don't want to. No,
Wow.
No.
Okay.
We always hold hands. Mine says,
So mean.
I can massage my partner's feet.
About time.
She's been due. She's overdue.
Way over.
Okay, but you have to admit, there's times where I offered to
Oh, yeah. I thought
massage
you
your
were
feet.
say, I don't got no Myra.
She ain't got no Myra.
Who remembers that?
I don't know. So if you don't, look, text us. If you don't know who Myra is, text us. Be like, just who's Myra?
Myra from Martin.
Drop a microphone emoji in your text and say, who is Myra? And then we'll touch upon that if anybody actually texts us.
Or say, you know who Myra is.
Yep, but put that microphone emoji in there so we know.
I ain't
So-
Myra.
Without further ado, what we'd like to do is, until the next time, before we even go there, we want to thank you for joining the #1 podcast for couples that married into crazy.
Yeah.
And until the next time, be blessed.
Bye-bye.